G'day listeners and welcome back to another episode of the Keeper League podcast. With the AFL fantasy podcast that doesn't talk about the superstars, we only talk about the lesser knowns and the players who will bring value to your draft and Keeper League teams. My name's Hef and with me in the studio today is a good mate of mine and also the currently ranked 144th in the world at AFL fantasy, the classic format that is. Aaron Bryans, welcome to the show, mate.
Hef, good to be with you. This is as good as my life is ever going to get, I think. It's all downhill from here. I was ranked overall 20th on Saturday night and I just screenshotted it, sent it to everybody that I possibly could because I've never been this close before. I'm usually kind of around 1K to 2K and I don't like it anymore. Fantasy was fun and now I'm actually caring about it. It's too anxious.
Yeah, so. I can totally understand that. That's my excuse for never doing any good as well, really. It's just that it's too stressful, so I don't bother. That's the real reason. But good to have you back in the studio. Haven't seen you since Record Store Day. A funny story about Record Store Day. I did mention it on the podcast last time, or just the day after it happened kind of thing. And a few listeners out there were actually picking my brain or just asking me what we actually picked up at Record Store Day. So I'll let them know on the socials what that I picked up. But what did you pick up on Record Store Day?
So the Fall Out Boy released an exclusive live album. It was a triple live album, So Much for Tour Dust. And I actually played it for the first time over the weekend. All three vinyls are different colours. So
that's pretty cool.
Clear one, there's like a glittery one, there's a green one. But I picked up a few things. I got like a Mayday Parade one, got a Paramore exclusive. The story, I guess, of that day was how we were like, we'll get there maybe like 2-3 hours early, and the line was stretching like blocks, and I had to do the radio show at 10:30, and doors didn't open until 9:30, and I was like, oh no! And thankfully the line moved pretty fast, and we got in and out.
Yeah, that was a pretty fun day, and especially that girl in front of us who, by the time we even got in the store, had picked out all the records we wanted for us and just handed to us.
She was so helpful.
Whoever she was,
we had
awesome.
No idea what we were doing. We're headless chooks.
Anyway, for the record nerds out there that want to know what Aaron picked up, there you go. That's the story there. I had a few gold members come through during the week. Said last week we hadn't had a few in a while, but a few people must have heard and know that they're going to get their name read out as soon as they sign up. So thank you to Matthew Smith, Leo Malesi, and Peter Saint-Sarnas. Thank you for signing up. Gold members are the reason why, members in general are the reason why this podcast is still continuing to this day. Basically helps me buy the time back I need to spend to do all this stuff each week. So thank you to those people who do sign up. It wouldn't be happening still if people weren't signing up. So thank you to those. But people who do sign up also get access to all our bonus resources, stats and tools on our website. So make sure you're signing up and getting full use out of all that sort of stuff as well. All right, Aaron, should we get into the round? Let's review it.
Let's rock and roll.
All right, first match of the round was the Fremantle versus Hawthorne game. First player I want to talk about is Michael Frederick. Not someone we usually bring up that much on the show, just given his role. Playing generally been kind of more of a small forward kind of role, but he's rolling up to the wing a bit more these days. Kicked 3 goals, 96 points. I don't know. I reckon it might be a tip of the cap, but what do you think?
It's a tough opponent, and Fremantle are a pretty good scoring side, so I do like the ability of Michael to, as he's kind of done the last few years, fill that Sonny role and be a dangerous small forward whilst also setting up play from the wing. So, 3 goals to get to a 96 is, that can happen. It's not like he's had 6 to get towards his 100. That could be a bi-weekly performance from Michael. So I'm maybe a little bit more bullish about how reliable he could potentially be if he keeps this up.
Just having a look, last 5 average 60, last 3 average 69. So he's on the up. So it is good to see him trending up. But we just have to wait and see and monitor that one to see if there is any change in that role or if it will produce more fantasy scoring. The fossil that is Jack Gunston, I think he was on nearly 80 at half time, ended up on 100 points. They had Luke Ryan on him real early. Were you watching this game?
No, I was listening on the radio actually, so I wasn't watching, but was listening,
supporting the brand.
Yeah, exactly.
But Luke Ryan was on him early, and just basically Jack Gunston was giving him an absolute bath. They moved Brendan Cox's team as well, but I'm thinking maybe it might be a watch on the teams that play the genuine 3 talls. If Luke Ryan has to try to go with one of the key forwards these days, they could be getting off the chain. So it could just be something to monitor going forward. Also
one for Jack that, 6 goals and 100, and he's had a terrific season. Probably too good for the podcast, right? But the teams are starting to realise how pivotal he is to Hawthorne, and he's probably going to get targeted a little more moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. But we kind of saw that in the lead up to the last few weeks, and then Mitch Lewis get off the chain a little bit more. So maybe that just leads to someone else doing some scoring. I reckon it's just something to monitor between matchups and, the makeup. But yeah, not a lot else to talk about in this game. So we will move on to the Brisbane versus Carlton game. First player that I want to talk about is my boy, Bruce Reville. Now, if you've been listening to the podcast, I've been banging on about this guy. And the main reason is I'm spewing I did not pick him up in our mid-season draft because I don't know if you play in a 12-man league where you have to play 7 midfielders. It is so tough to find a midfielder at the moment. And Bruce Reville is sitting on so many waiver wires out there. He's undrafted in so many leagues. And he's getting it done. Like, he had 97 on the weekend. I think he's only averaging 63 from his last 3. But, like, he's been, like, low score 80, low score 90, that sort of stuff for the last few weeks. So, yeah, I'm going to say it once and I'll say it again. He's a reliable bench option at the moment.
Yeah, in a deep league for sure. And having seen Bruce live, I was calling the Port game at the time, so I haven't seen this particular matchup. But his ability to be the link man up the wing, and then he's the guy who can kind of get to the uncontested mark on the outside and sets them up. He always finds space. He had 7 on Friday night, which helped him get towards that 97. So I do like the role that Bruce has because I do find he's so important as the connector for Brisbane and has entrenched himself in that team as a result of it. So, it's not a bad shout for a longer-term look as well, just, a young guy who's making his way through the lines.
No, I agree. And, just the fact that he's kind of, confirmed himself as a best 23 starter. Not going to go big every week, but he's one of the wingers that kind of do pop every now and then. And, it can be handy to score. And like I said, if you're looking for a bench midfielder, easy guy. We'll move on to Levi Ashcroft. Now, Carlton are a very easy team for wingers, but it just kind of feels strange that Levi Ashcroft isn't too good for the podcast yet. I know he's only second season, but I think we judge him on his brother, and he doesn't get there. But he is averaging the 79.7 at the moment. Brisbane midfielders, are they a bit more consistent this year? And is it because, Lockie Neal's just going big every week and it's leaving fewer points for everyone else?
I was going to say even from consistency basis, like a Josh Dunkley who has been consistently, I guess, subpar for his fantasy scoring, but the role is so secure because, there's a lot of Brisbane midfielders and they're rotating through. McCluggage has just come back, that they're all sharing the load outside of Lockie, who's just an accumulator. The Levi one, a lot of his touches came through D50 on Friday night, which is a little bit of a flag, but otherwise he's usually, wing, pushing towards the forward line.
Yeah, he did kick 2 goals in this game, but I think, I don't know if you saw it. He flopped in a free kick, got one, retaliated, and then got hit again, and then flopped again, and then got another free kick in front of goal.
I have seen this one.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think how good he was last year as a rookie season just had us feeling that maybe he jumped straight to 100.
Yeah.
The way he was progressing, and he's probably just not there yet.
Yeah.
And he's not. He hasn't knocked out any of their star inside midfielders.
Yeah, he's still playing on that wing.
Yeah, so he's almost a utility the way he's floating around.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. But should be too good for the podcast eventually. He's just, I don't know, something about him that just annoys me, that's all. Anyway, Sam Draper is the next one I'm going to talk about. It's more just rucks against Carlton. You think Pitnet is actually a pretty good ruckman and his hit-outs to advantage numbers are good, but for some reason he kind of allows other teams to score on him. Maybe they just beat him around the ground, I'm not really sure. But Sam Draper was another example of this, and I actually had Darcy Ford as my streamer of the week. Should have had Sam Draper. I mixed them up, but yeah.
The other thing with Carlton is they don't have a backup, right? So the pinch hitter at times is going to be like a Harry Mackay, and that's going to expose them tremendously depending on who they're playing against. So Brisbane are running Draper and Ford, but Pittenet's kind of holding the fort down as much as he can, and as you said, he's probably more dangerous floating forward and being able to what he's able to do around stoppages, but as a genuine ruckman, he's probably giving away a lot of points, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Well, you mentioned Harry Mackay there as well. He's the next one I wanted to talk about because, they had Liam Reedy on the side over the last couple of weeks, and I feel I think the commentary team last week was saying they've got to get Harry Mackay in the ruck because he's lacking confidence and rah. And lo and behold, this week he goes to 7 CBA. So maybe they're watching the replay back and listening to the advice. But I don't know, kicked 3 goals, had that bit of ruck time. I think he's a player that if Carlton can get their shit together, he should be good because he'd be the most targeted player in the forward line, right? But it's kind of interesting because with Curnow leaving, Curno's been shit at Sydney and Mackay's been shit at Carlton. So maybe they needed each other. The saying that, one leaves and the other one's going to start. Maybe it's the opposite.
It's a lot of spotlight, I think. For Curnow, he's such a confidence player, and early on, he didn't have it because he had a couple of low-scoring games, and then all of a sudden he's trying to hook it around the body, 10 out, and he's missing, and he's just doing silly stuff because he's panicking a fair bit. Whereas Harry Mackay needed that foil to be, get some space to run into because the top defender was taking Charlie. So you're right. I think it's hurt both of them to a degree. The Harry one, in terms of that role, so like 21 touches, it's being part of, I guess, that midfield mix as the pinch hit ruckman. Liam Reedy had a really good game in the VFL. So I don't know if it's a long-term thing, because the other problem you have, and the Crows are dealing with this now, is, Phil Thorpe's such a good pinch hitter, but you're putting your only key forward at risk. If there's a knee-on-knee contact, Harry goes down, like they've got nobody. So I just wonder if, going all in is the right call for Michael Voss with Harry Mackay as a second ruckman, because it's obviously done him a world of good on Friday.
Yeah, no,
it's just long-term, is it going to put him in harm's risk?
Yeah, it is a fair call, especially when you do have a competent second ruck in the wings who can kind of play forward as well. Yeah, I get what you mean. Move on to Will Hayward, 107. I'm thinking this is... I thought this was more of a tip of the cap, but off of his last three, he's had 85 average from the last three. He's gone 101, 58, 122. So just kind of fluctuating a lot at the moment. He's a pretty handy streamer, but I think he's just as likely to get you a 50 as he is 100 at the moment.
I'm surprised how many touches he's been having. Usually pressure forward, good tackle numbers, picks up a couple of goals, Will Hayward. But I think he was an early pick at Sydney back in the day, and obviously had a little quiet patch before he moved to the Blues. But, looking at just how he's gone on Friday, he's gone back down the ground. He's getting up towards the wings, setting things up. Just not just a pure small forward anymore with Hayward.
Well, I don't know. There might be something in the matchup as well, because Ben Ainsworth also put up good scores. He's had back-to-back good scores as well, I think. So he's on the bubble this week, and Brisbane are a difficult matchup for medium forward, so they shouldn't have really scored well. So I'm not really sure what is going on with it. But Ainsworth had a bit of midfield time as well, I reckon. He had the 3 CBAs. So I'm watching with interest if he's kind of getting those kind of roles.
Carlton's so volatile right now, isn't it, that maybe Vossi's just throwing some darts and maybe something like an Ainsworth does land, and you end up with this brand new role 9 rounds in.
Well, I think as well, they almost won the game too. So maybe he will start experimenting a bit more, and maybe some of these things will stick. So they're worth noting at the moment. George Stewart came back into the side this week, had the 81 points. I don't think he's safe. Sorry, I think he's probably safe for a week, given that Carlton were right in the game. But I'm also thinking he didn't really do that much himself. And I'm just worried that he might have just been in to kind of match Brisbane's midfield depth, just add another one in to kind of go with them to allow those rotations.
Usually a good tackler, contested kind of player.
Yeah.
I heard that disposal wasn't the best either on the night, and CBA wise, he was up there. Obviously, he knocked Jagger out a fair bit, so he was given a crack to really unleash. And 20 touches. I don't know if that's enough to really showcase why you belong there. And
13 CBAs, it's not heaps, given that he is that kind of... He would be the guy that you kind of use to block for other players and tackle and do the in and under stuff as well. Those kind of players tend to have high CBAs, so it doesn't fill me with a heap of confidence really. You mentioned Jagger Smith as well. He had 25 disposals, but his CBAs were slightly down. But it kind of just felt like he was used more. Maybe it's just because he won more of the footy while he was in there this week.
Also,
I don't know.
Blake Acres went big in the twos.
Did see that.
So you always wonder, could he come in, play more outside, Jagger goes in?
Yeah.
He's got a couple of options, I guess, Fozzie.
Well, Jagger's getting a fair bit of forward time, so he might get it with the kind of low CBA numbers, I think, as well, which would be handy for a few coaches out there. Anyways, let's get on to the game we were both at, the Port Adelaide versus Western Bulldogs game. First player I will make mention of is Logan Evans. I feel like we talk about him every second week. Had 111 points this week, but Miles Bergman went down early. Do you think it was just something that helped him, or do you think he's just a fluctuating type of player?
I think this was purely just how the night played out, which was the Dogs were so good defensively, and they zoned Port Adelaide in their defensive 50 that a lot of the time Port were just kicking it back and forth across half-back. So, you look at Logan Evans, he had 11 marks on the night. Aaliyah has 13 as well. I'm sure Bergman would have had more if he was sticking around for longer. Lockie Jones had 8. So there's a few there that I think they were just accumulating because of how the night went.
Yeah.
Not so much how it's going to go long term, because Port really, what they're doing is they're actually quite an efficient D50 to forward 50 team. They're good kick mark, they pinpoint their way through, and then they lock it in their 50, and that's how usually they're generating score. The Bulldogs Luke Beveridge out-coached them, I think, on Friday night, and that's probably why we saw some different scores. Like even Kane Farrell, he's been reliable around like the 80 mark.
Yeah.
122 is a pretty high ceiling for him. And again, I think that's purely because the ball was living in his area.
Yeah, no, I do agree. Looking at the data over the last few weeks as well, medium defenders in terms of points scored versus opposition and stuff like that. Bulldogs were becoming a harder team for defenders to score against, but over the last 5 rounds, they're giving up an extra 10 points to medium defenders. And I think for key defenders, they're giving up an extra 5 points as well. And that's tightening up, but like over the first few rounds, they were giving up a lot of points. So,
but then you look at, they've got Carlton this week and you go, gee, Nick Newman could go bonkers against them.
I've actually got him in my left field vice captain options and captain options this week.
I like it.
Yeah. Alira is the other one. So we talked about defenders, I guess. Key defenders aren't scoring that well against the Dogs over the last few weeks. I think it's about 4.5 points that they give up extra. But like Alira is too good for the podcast now.
Yeah, I think he's the exception of we talk about Logan Evans as being a one-hit wonder, but Ali is consistently taking 10 plus marks. He's second in the league, I think, for them. And this has been a bit of a shock, to be honest, because I always thought he was a good interceptor when he was the free man, and now he's having to play one-on-one, and he's really adapted. Yeah,
no, he's doing awesome at the moment. Like, he just marks everything that comes near him as well, which is pretty awesome. Do you think he's back to his AA form?
I think he's in line for it comfortably. Yeah, this is going to be a second blazer if he keeps it up.
Yeah, absolutely. The other one is Mitch Georgiades. He's another one I think we talk about every second week, but his average is up to 75 now. And I just think given the fact that he's just targeted so much going inside 50, and Port's inside 50s are really structured around his leading lanes. And that's something that's really improved with Port this season is they're not just bombing it in long anymore. They're actually lowering the odds and hitting up key forwards. And I don't know why it took our last coach that long to understand how that's going. But anyway, he's going to get a lot of the footy this season just because he's targeted so much.
I picked him up in my keeper league when we hit the waivers purely for that because, it's the same vibe as Charlie Dixon, but the delivery's better.
Yeah.
So he's leading, he's getting it on the chest. And if he was actually a little bit more accurate in front of goal, because unfortunately for a large part of this season, he's been kind of 50-50, as he was on Friday with 4 goals for.
Yeah.
He could be a monster. He's
could
had
be
a
leading the Coleman
scores.
by a lot of the moment if he actually kicks straight. So you probably could say the same about a lot of key forwards out there, though, really. Onto the Dogs, though. Connor Butterick had the 114 points. Just good to see him back in the side. Bailey Dale owners were real concerned during the week. I had quite a few message me asking, if they were to be worried about him. But I think this is the sort of game that just suited Butterick better. It was very much like a pop in the hole, short kick kind of game. It wasn't super high scoring. And Dale seems to be a better line breaker, I think, or just the guy that they can use to kind of get over the line, where this game was pretty congested and pretty tight, and I think this game kind of suits. So, Dale still scored an 86, but I'm just happy to have Connor Butterick back in the side and to put up a 114 straight back in. I'm pretty happy with that.
I'll put my hand up and say I was one of those who reached out to you, just panicking a little bit as a Bailey Dale owner. I think with Butterick, his ball use is so good. So Bailey Dale, as you touched on, explosive off halfback, can get the handball, receive and go. Whereas Butterick, his delivery is so exceptional that I think that's why he's going to take some of the kick-ins potentially. I don't think he did on Friday. I think he only had 1 compared to Dale. But they probably want the ball in his hands more if they're trying to break out of what is a congested defensive 50. So I think it's not going to dramatically damage Dale in the sense that I still think he's an 80-plus guy.
Yeah.
It's just that...
there's points share.
Yeah, I think it's more of a point share than either of them dropping off the face of the earth.
No, I do agree. Joel Fraser had 8 CBAs. I think Port just felt like Port really didn't have a player to go with him. Having Willem Drew and Ollie Wines in your midfield, it kind of feels like, you just have that kind of super athletic, especially when one of them's minding Bont as well. It's kind of hard to go with both of those. So, he only had the 8 CBAs, though, but... Yeah, he's averaging 74 from his last 5 games, and from his last 3, he's averaging 82.3. So it's just good to see someone like Joel Fraser getting a lot more consistent.
I think we were hoping this might have been a 90-100 year, and he probably just hasn't quite hit that yet because everyone's touting him as the next Bontempelli, and he's going to take that role long term.
Yeah.
And then Liberatore still, a chance to come back in. Ed Richards, we spoke to in the post-game, reckoned it was a couple of weeks away, and concussion-wise, he's feeling really good. So... it's just that minor knee surgery that he had. So it's going to get more and more convoluted. Riley Sanders is doing pretty well, but he's probably going to get pushed out as well. So there's, this is the old problem with the Dogs is there's too many midfielders. And,
Yeah, exactly.
And he might fall victim to that.
Yeah, but like I guess the signs are just there. So he's definitely going to be that star of the future. Just needs the opportunity, I think. Michael Selwood, it's really hard to tell between him and Buslinger, but I felt like he had heaps more points on the night. But he had 74 for this game. But just always seemed to have the footy.
Yeah.
I don't know, he took 10 marks in defence.
Tricks of the trade. So Buslinger has strapping on his shoulders.
There you go.
Selwood does. But they are exactly the same kind of build, same hair.
Boots? Yeah, I know you like to use boots as a
I don't think they're the same, unfortunately. But on this as well, so Michael Selwood, like terrific in what he's been able to do is, I think he's only had like 10 games and he's up there near the top 10 of interceptors.
Yeah.
And Buslinger's just a little cheeky one that I've been kind of putting out into the ether. This isn't coming from anywhere, but out of contract, first round West Australian, who just wasn't getting a gig for years. I feel like West Coast could use him.
Yeah, definitely.
He had like 26 balls in 2 games before Friday night.
Yeah.
So maybe like if you've got a really deep league and you're thinking about long term, like I feel like Jed's a really talented tall defender that could find a better home.
No, I agree. But back to Selwood though, like, he's a good player and he was always a good waffle and VFL player. It's just like it's going to be hard to score in a side with Dale and Butterick. That's the issue.
Yeah, but the intercept marking's pretty handy.
Yeah, exactly. And then Nick Caulfield had 69 points. He started like a house on fire and just faded late. Like, I know he's just a player that's shown promise in the past and just struggled to play consistently since. So, like, I feel like if he can hold his spot, he might give us something in the next few weeks. That's all. So,
from memory, the only times I remember calling him was like he's running out of the back pocket and someone's kicked it to him.
Yeah.
So, like, 7 marks on the night.
Yeah.
That was kind of all I really remember of his role.
Yeah, I just remember at quarter time he was leading like all comers by a mile, but then went quiet after that, basically. Anyways, let's move on to the North Melbourne versus Sydney game. I guess one thing about North Melbourne I kind of just want to mention is like I put out those like graphics each week that are like the hardest teams to score against, the easiest team to score against. And North Melbourne were always the hardest team to score against because like I just figured they played Essendon, they played West Coast, they played Port, like they played all these shit teams. And I was like, that's skewing the numbers, But then the last few weeks they've come up against Geelong, they've come against Sydney, and they're still sitting as the hardest team to score against. And I don't think a player from Sydney turned up on the weekend. So, maybe North Melbourne aren't the easy beats for fantasy that they once were.
They are controlling the ball a lot better than they used to. And there's a clear game plan in terms of who's playing where. So in the past, we've got this litany of young midfielders and they're all going to get a crack. And now Clarko's gone, these are my guys. Everybody else, this is your role.
Yeah.
And it's just way more clear cut in terms of what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I think so. So it's hard for people to score, but we'll start off with, I guess, we can start off with the Swans. Tom Papley was the only one who put up a decent score that's not too good for the podcast. He scored 83. Did have the 13 CBAs, but it was almost like the work from boundary throw-ins and ball-ups. Like, he was just targeted so much by Brodie Grundy in the middle. And then, like, then like tap it to him, he'd be on the end, score a goal, that sort of stuff. He was pretty electric.
Bit of pace on the ball. Like, gives you a little bit of, Rankin vibes where he's clean at ground level and then can explode out of there.
Yeah, 100%. And like it kind of suits the kind of modern game a bit more. And looking at his last 3, he's now averaging 79.3, so almost 80 from his last 3 games. Round 6, he only had 10% CBAs, but then went up to 29%, 28% in round 8, up to 38% this week. So
and this also isn't foreign. They used him a fair bit on the ball last year. Just the injury in the preseason and easing him back in with the low time on ground. So maybe they're ready to pull the trigger again and really inject him.
I'm not sure what his waiver and ownership percentage is, but if he's around, he might be someone worth picking up as a forward. But onto those North Melbourne players we were talking about before. Cam Zurhaar, 110 points. I had him on the bench in 2 of my leagues this week. It's a bit annoying. But he was back on the halfback line. I claimed that role was over, I think a week ago.
Well, it's 3 of the last 4 now that he's had heavily halfback numbers. So, I guess it is real now, isn't it? We've got a month of kind of data to work with. And
it feels like they want to play him there because McKerch is doing like a decent job up forward as well. Like, and it kind of feels like McKerch can kind of start forward and play anywhere and using the ball off half back. So.
And Clarko got really fired up about this right before the game, how there were so many critics of McKercher who's an uncontested player and everyone's saying, he should be in the midfield and in and under and fighting for the hard ball. And Clarko said, no, that's not his role. His role is to be on the outside and, across the wing and get it inside 50 and maybe hit the scoreboard as well. Like, which tells me that, and you can see this from your CBA numbers, like he's not in their midfield mix right now, Colin McKercher. And then, if he's playing more of that dangerous half forward role, Zurhaar goes half back.
Yeah, exactly. The other one in this game, I feel like I mention him every few weeks, is George Wardlaw. I feel like a broken record with him. He had the 78 points. Just can't seem to put up a big score despite looking like a gun.
But also time on ground. I feel like they've really...
64% in this game.
Yeah,
wow.
and he had the preseason injury, but he's probably played for, 7-8 games now?
He was out of the side last week with something, wasn't he?
He had an illness, yeah. So there was a hamstring preseason, slowly kind of eased his way back in, had the illness, but... Like they're still not using him enough. This is the thing. It's like an Angus Sheldrick to a degree. When they're on, their points per minute would be through the roof.
It's actually pretty crazy with 22 CBAs from 64% time on ground. It's pretty much like he was just at the centre bounce and coming off the pitch. Which
tells you, I guess, long term that he will be the guy.
Yeah.
Just right now, he's not playing enough for it to be, valid and have him on your field.
And just looking at the numbers, there's always a low kick count. It doesn't take a lot of marks. It's a bit, it's almost like Matt Rowell-esque, you know what I mean? But, then he might be able to do a bit more damage with the tackle numbers at the coalface. He had 4 in this game, and if he was on the ground a bit more, he might have had a few more, but I'm not sure. Anyways, let's get on to the next match, which is the GWS versus Essendon game. Jayden Laverde has put up a few scores like this now. He had 91 in this game. Just takes a lot of marks back there. Had 12 marks in this game, but I would never trust streaming him, would you?
It's a name that just kind of makes you cringe a bit, but fresh off a contract extension, so clearly what he's doing they're liking. I
will flag that Sam Taylor is coming back, so he does feel like he is the... Yeah. Do you think there's room for him, Buckley, Himmelberg, Taylor, all on the same
The other
side?
one is Fonte did play in this game, I was going to say. He's usually accumulating a lot of marks across half-back as well. So there's a lot of guys that are in that zone. And I guess what's helped him as well, different builds in the way they go about it. But Lockie Ash playing on ball has probably freed up a spot in D6 as well. So maybe he's, relishing a bit of time to just get these easy kick marks that Lockie Ash would usually get.
Maybe he's just jumping into space there. Kieran Briggs has been good since coming back in, had 85 points in this game. I think sometimes with players like him, you just need to be sent back to the twos for a bit of a scare. I guess it does help that Nick Madden got injured and will be probably for a while by the sound. So looks like he's locked back in. So owners will be happy, but I don't know. Just good to see him come back in the side.
He's not an immobile ruckman like an O'Brien or anything like that. He was... he was stiff in a sense. I think Madden's probably more versatile. But he's not useless.
They were using Leclerc for a fair bit there as well, but that seems to have kind of gone by the wayside a bit too. So maybe Briggs is just the main guy back in there. Anyway, owners will be happy with it. Connor Iden has had back-to-back good weeks, but again, I think it's a side Essendon that could let him get off the leash. Not a lot of key, dominant key forwards that they have to target. And he's on the bubble, and he could be too good for the podcast next week because he plays West Coast, who give up a lot of points to defenders. So
450 pressure's just gone.
Yeah, the year I dropped Connor Iden back to the waivers, back to the draft pool, he starts to go big. Classic. Onto some Bombers. Peter Wright keeps getting it done. 101 points this week. Nick Bryan was back in the side, but only the 57% time on ground. You'd expect that to rise, right?
Totally. Yeah, he's got to be their number one long term. But when we talk about forward pinch hitters, Peter's probably the best of them all.
Yeah, 100%. Once Bryan builds his time on ground, Wright's inevitably going to drop, but I still expect him to be a 70 to 75 kind of
on a good night,
key forward guy and backup ruck. So hopefully that works out. Were you tempted by Archie Perkins' performance on the weekend with his 94 points? I'm never tempted by Archie Perkins anymore.
No, he has burned me in the past, to be honest.
100%. So me too. The thing I liked is, and he does this from time to time, he just seemed to get up the ground a lot more playing that high half forward role. He felt like at times he was playing deeper forward, and because he's such a small framed kind of guy, doesn't tend to do that well inside 50, but I don't mind if he play kind of McKercher does if he starts at half forward and moves up the ground more. But he would need to back it up before I trust him ever again. I think role-wise in terms of damaging guys who can rotate through the mid and play half forward, they've got better options right now, the Bombers. 100%, even for the Bombers. Sam Durham had 93 points. He's kind of back in the midfield mix over the last few weeks. Was playing a fair bit of forward earlier on the season. It's hard to... you can kind of pinpoint why, but had the 25 CBAs this week. But this week, I think Caldwell was out. Last week, Parrish was out.
Yeah.
But now we're going to have Dyson Sharp out of the side. So he's playing good footy and he should hold his spot in the midfield. but it just feels never safe with Sam Durham.
No, purely because Brad Scott has been moving the magnets around a bit. Like you look at Archie Roberts at the start of the year, and just he was their runner-up best and fairest, and he wasn't being put on ball. And and finally he's getting like heavy time on ground, and he's going nuts. So like I feel like Essendon is still tinkering a bit, and like Durham was the one I was referring to when we talk about Perkins, that I like him better because we know he's a good tackler. He wins hard clearance, and I was genuinely shocked that he was playing in the forward 50 at the start of the year because it just felt like that is not the role that works for him.
Felt wasted.
Yeah, he it doesn't help the team because he's not great in that spot, and it doesn't help him because he doesn't find the footy. So I just don't trust Brad Scott. Like,
that's fair.
I think he's a great midfielder, and this is where he should be. I don't know if it's going to be a long-term thing or not.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it felt earlier on in the season that they were building around Sam Durham. Like, he's your best young, kind of bullish kind of mid, and then it felt like it went away. Now it feels like it's back
He gave
again.
up after like 2 weeks.
Yeah, so
it's just,
I don't know. Hopefully it sticks around. It's better for my fantasy side. I just wish I could have another midfielder in my side to play him in the forward line. So get the mid-season draft. Get me Bruce Reville. Get him in. Sully Roby didn't quite get the 80 again, but I guess another 79 points and had the 13 CBAs. So getting that mid-forward role, kind of like with Caldwell Parrish out last week. Durham's gone into their role, and Roby seems to be playing the mid-forward role now.
But he's just more classy and has probably better positioning and can actually utilise it a bit better than a Durham can.
Yeah, so I think he holds this role for a while now, so it should be good for him, especially with...
I'm taking an 80 average as a forward. That's pretty handy.
100%, yeah. If it is 79 most weeks, I'll be taking that for sure. Let's get on to the Gold Coast versus St Kilda game. I don't have a lot of St Kilda players to actually talk about, so we'll talk about a few Suns. Daniel Rioli had 103 points after a few lean starts of the week. I think he's going 89 from his last 3 now, so that's actually not too bad. 76 from his last 5. But like back home in the NT, he loves playing up there. He was talking about it before the game. He was pretty happy to be back. There's something like footy, fishing and friends were his favourite thing about the NT. Defenders have been scoring well against Gold Coast Suns recently. They went big last week against the Suns. I think it was GWS played them. St Kilda has always been a nice team to play against for defenders, is what I'm trying to say. So kind of a bit of a perfect storm, wouldn't you think?
It's just, I guess, that because of the conditions, maybe that's why you didn't see like a Sinclair go as huge as he can. But you're still looking at the top few. There's plenty of defenders in that. So, it's a funny old one how they've been going about their back six, the Suns, because I do feel like you look at a John Noble, who 135, like huge. Charlie Ballard's not there, and I'm just wondering, like having a look at some of those numbers, how they're structuring up more now, and that's probably why the last few weeks, because Ballard was in, I want to say rounds 5 and 6,
something like that.
And since then, Bodie Hewlin's gone big, John Noble's starting to get some scores together, and Daniel Rioli's picked up, and I just wonder if not having him in the side has helped the others find plenty more of the footy. Yeah,
probably. I think they brought another key defender. I can't remember what his name is. I think it was a mid-season draft.
Was it Oscar Adams?
Oscar Adams, that's the one. So maybe just he's playing more pure lockdown, which allows a few of these kind of, get off the chain a bit more. Speaking of key defenders, though, Mac Andrews had 100 points. I think he's on the bubble again. I had him in my streamers this week. I think he was one of the few that have hit. I was in a real hot patch with my streamers, and now I'm getting like 1 out of 5 each week. So.
I had Mac as he's my D5. We've got 4 defenders in our keeper league, so I picked him up this year, and purely because in the past he's obviously shown how good he is with his intercept marking, but the athleticism, I thought about the ruck situation, which when I saw him physically in gather round at Norwood, I thought, this is the path they should be going down. Because the problem that he has is it's purely an attitudinal thing. He doesn't defensively run well. So if he's playing as a ruckman, he wins it and then he just kind of stops. So you got to follow up. So only the 2 hit outs on the weekend and 14 marks is what got him to the big score. But I do love the prospect that long term, because I think he's only 22. You've got a really good intercept halfback marker who can also play in the midfield. That's definitely pretty exciting.
Well, do you think that the preferred combo now is Moyle and Mac Andrew as the preferred ruck partnership? Because we've seen Witts go outside.
I think so.
I like it a lot better from just from a Gold Coast.
That was the old Mitch Cleary soft drop. Jared Witts was just managed out of the team and hasn't come back.
Makes sense, doesn't it? The other thing is with Mac Andrew, he comes up against Port Adelaide this week, who are absolutely giving up points to key defenders over the last few weeks, after the last 5 rounds. So I'm going to have him in my streamers again this week, but he might be too good for the podcast next week. Let's wait and see. I've got Ben Jepson on my list who scored 34 points. It's not really about Ben Jepson. It's just like it's interesting why they played him, because they dropped Hewland last week, and then they brought Closey into the side, who got suspended, so another wingman. And it feels like they're just trying a few different wingmen out at the moment. And I keep talking about my boy Jai Murray, who is playing all right at VFL at the moment. I'm hoping he's the next one in. So
I like that, because this is the luxury riches the Suns have. I've got Bo Adensall in my team. I'm just sitting on him for a while, waiting for him to get healthy and going. But like how crazy is it that 23rd man for the Suns, like Dimmer's just trialling all these high-profile kids. And hopefully one of them ends up landing that spot.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's Jai Murray or Adams. I'll take that. Either of those guys in my team, I'd be happy. Anyway, let's get on to the Geelong versus Collingwood game. Managed to watch half of this game. I got dragged along to watch Southampton versus Middlesbrough by a bunch of soccer dads that I coach and got to know.
Sounds brutal. Hard night.
Yeah, it was good fun. It was just late night. Really starts at 9 o'clock. Finished at 11. I missed the second half of this game driving to that. But first player I want to talk about is Shannon Neal. I just keep banging on about this guy. When Geelong are on top, he's just capable of kicking bags. 3 goals in this game, had the 92 points, heaps of inside 50s. He's a viable option.
He's a unit and really good marker, and so young. Like a lot of people like to compare him to Tom Hawkins and what he might end up being.
He was the replacement, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much, and it's close to a like for like. Like I don't want to kind of pigeonhole him into what he can be. But
complements Jez so well as well.
Yeah.
It allows him to get up the ground if he's struggling or whatever. It works pretty well.
But he's just such a big guy that his leads are strong and he can take a lot of marks.
Yeah,
and
he'll only get better.
Yeah, I feel like at some point he's going to be a Coleman contender. Just the way that he's progressing.
And if that happens, you'll probably be a consistent 70 scorer. So he's one to kind of just get on now for the future, I think, and stream him when you can in games where you think Geelong are going to get on top. James Worpel had 87 points. I'm still not sure where he fits in that mid chart at Geelong, but the depth chart. But was because he was playing more forward earlier on, but now he's right back in the midfield mix, had 18 CBAs this week, and it's hurting Tom Atkins, I think, as well. I think he's dropped over 10 points per game in average, which makes sense. And then I guess Mullen's going in to do tagging jobs, which just takes up centre bounce time. That's hurting Atkins as well. So James Worpel, I'm not sure if I'd rely on him consistently. It's more that he's just affecting other people in their fantasy scoring. I think.
How was Max Holmes's kind of heat map around that? Because
I'd say he was on the half back line again, wasn't he? I saw him do kickouts in the first half.
That's again like another one where I feel like he should be on ball. But if that's going to hurt Worpel, I think if Holmes ends up picking up his CBAs again. So
it's interesting. But Geelong's they're getting it done. But I don't think beating Collingwood's that impressive though these days.
And also, that rolling management of Chris Scott, where players change roles or are out of the team purely because they're just getting them to September. So
that's true.
I don't know if we've seen their final form to say. Yet.
No, I kind of agree. Reece Stanley had 80 points. Like if you're really desperate for a ruck, he could be someone that you go to. But Blake Sales is going to be back in 2 to 3 weeks.
And also they rested Mitch Edwards, but he's the
likely
guy
to come back in. Yeah. So I was thinking about that in terms of streamers and stuff like that, because you don't like the Geelong matchup as much if Reece Stanley's in there. You probably prefer Mitch Edwards, but it looks like they'll bring him back next week. So for those streamers out there, you shouldn't have to worry too much. And Zach Guthrie, I just wanted to point out with his 80 points, just medium defenders against Collingwood are scoring very well. So they're very streamable targets at the moment if you've got a few of those that are coming up against Collingwood, who I think plays Sydney this week. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's the Friday night game.
Yeah. So might be if you can find a few of the Sydney halfbacks, maybe just people like Blakey might be a VC option on a earlier in the week or something like that.
Don't tell me.
Might be an option there. Onto the Pies. Jordan De Goey, so close to too good for the podcast. Only had the 78 last week, but averaging 95 from his last 3. Just getting back to his best in that mid-forward role. Do you trust him to stay fit, though?
I think we've gone 9 rounds and he's been all right. And the role has consistently been there. Clearly they need his speed on the ball because in terms of midfielders, it's kind of Nick Dacos or bust right now. Like Pendles is good getting around the ground and Josh Dacos gets in there at times, but I think he's your explosive X factor guy. So I can't see, the demands on him changing. As you said, it's just, can he stay with it for the whole year?
Yeah,
it's probably the hard part.
Each week I start to grow more in confidence with him anyway, so we'll wait and see what happens. Jeremy Howe had 107 points. I feel like every Collingwood defender has been made too good for the podcast just from the chip around. Like if they're they weren't in front this week, but when they're in front, they just chip around, and I think they kind of were just stemming the bleeding a bit on the weekend. But But yeah, like Houston, Maynard, Quainer, they've all been made too good for the podcast. Just on Quainer, I'm not sure if this has been consistent, but he was lining up on the wing a fair bit this week.
He did that 2 years ago, I reckon.
Yeah.
And they flipped him back again last year.
Yeah.
So it's been a role that he's been able to do.
Yeah, maybe that's just contributed to his uptick in scoring a bit as well. Got Scott Pendlebury in here, 100 points. I think he's too good for the podcast, even though he's still, 38, 39 years old. I don't know if this is a controversial take, but I'll give it anyway. But is the tail wagging the dog a bit here with Collingwood? So, like, that game they drew with Hawthorne, they rested Pendlebury to kind of get him to a home game to celebrate the record equaling game or whatever. But he's probably worth 1 point in a draw against Hawthorne, right? And then they played him this week, and then they're not playing him next week because the game will be broken. Like, do Collingwood want to win, games?
I mean, this is the big talking point the sacrifice you're making for this event, is it actually hurting you on field? Because he's one of their better players right now. Yeah. But the counter argument is, is he one of their better players if he's playing every week? Maybe actually having the rest and the low time on ground every second game is what's getting him to these big prolific scores.
I don't know. Aren't they going to put a gold number on him in 2 weeks' time? That's a bit of bathwater drinking if you ever...
I think it has been overhyped a little bit. Like it's the AFL graphic they put out is this glittery spark. It's not going to be like that. Okay. It'll be like this faint, soft gold.
Okay, I still think, if I was Pendles, I wouldn't want that.
It has, we've been talking about it for weeks, and I think it has detracted from the event, hasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Collingwood are putting the man before their season.
There's a guy in our keeper league who has him, and he's trying to ship him around because obviously when he plays, he's scoring well. But
it's hard to.
How do you value a guy that is close to 40 and probably in his last season, and it doesn't play every week?
And in my league where we've got no mid depth because they're all taken up. It's
a tricky
hard
scenario.
To sell him. That's why lucky I've just got mid. I traded in a heap of mid depth the other week. Like now I've just got Mason Wood. Luckily I can just chuck on.
I don't know if that's good depth, to be honest. But.
Well, in our league it's good depth. Trust me, it really is. We have two guys in the weekend playing donuts because they can't get enough midfielders in. Anyway, next one is Jack Buller. Did some nice things, kicked 2 goals. I just liked I like seeing a young key forward push up the ground and take some marks across halfback, which he was doing, like the Josh Tracy kind of stuff. And he's not at that level yet, but just the signs are there for a kid like him to actually.
Which we kind of needed because in the early stages he felt like another Elliot Himmelberg.
Yeah.
A guy who's too good for the twos but not at an AFL level, and that's kind of why Sydney let him go.
Yeah.
But it's nice to see him build a bit of form.
Yeah.
So hopefully he can be a long-term target for them.
I've put Bo McCreary in the show doc here just because I know you like spruiking him every time you come on the show. Did have 80 points for you this week.
He's a good tackler. He gets around the ball. I do like him as a depth option.
Well, the seven CBA is pretty handy, and he has had 4 70-plus scores in a row, so I think it's worth mentioning.
I think he's just a reliable depth guy.
Yeah.
That's I like him. He's a workhorse.
Mate, if I'm spruiking Bruce Reville and Mason Wood, you can spruik up Bo McCreary all you like, right? And then I guess Ned Long had the 79 points. Just a classic Ned Long game. He'll be the 80 kind of guy that we seem to talk about and never be too good for the podcast.
If he gets 10 tackles, he's laughing, but
exactly.
Was a 5-1.
Let's move on to the Melbourne versus West Coast day. I think football should not be played on Mother's Day. It makes it too hard to actually watch it.
I think if it is going to be, can we not have the only 2 games overlapping? Because that is quite annoying.
I did like that the games were all done and dusted by 5 p.m. though. It was
weird, just
nice.
Having access to my team and being able to move it around.
Yeah, exactly. First one I want to talk about is Ed Langdon. Fortunes have really turned around with this guy. 114 points this week. And he's playing on the halfback a lot more. I think it coincides with Salem being out and then Xavier Lindsay going out as well. But Bowie was back this week and it kind of stuck. So, I don't know. Do you think this role holds, or do you think if Salem, Lindsay, Bowie all on the same side, he goes back to a winger half forward?
I think he does, yeah. That wing half forward role's been there for years. And occasionally, that 5th, 6th man into the midfield, which has helped him get towards 70, 80 most weeks. So I think you're bang on in terms of the availability and who they've got, that he's, a veteran who's very good at footy and can go to half-back when they need him to, but isn't their first choice option.
Yeah, I do agree with that, I think. Next one is Jacob Van Rooyen. West Coast were the second easiest team for key forwards heading into this game, so could be the easiest actually after this week, just looking at it too. So
they don't have any tall defenders, do they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes like just my point is just stream key forwards against West Coast. I think is the way to go here. Jacob Garth had 99 points. He pops in a few games. He had 84 in round 1, but then he had like 40s and 50s until this week, really. And then I think he had a few games out in the middle. I think it's more West Coast factor than getting excited.
Yeah, and he was like that at the Hawks. Like originally I'd had him in the preseason and moved him on because I kind of felt looking at the previous years with Hawthorne that there were signs of a really big ceiling, and maybe at Melbourne with a consistent role he'd be able to do it, week in, week out. But the same thing has happened. He's the same old CJ that we knew.
Yeah.
Just every now and again he pops off, but it's just not consistent enough.
No, I do agree. Let's move on to Jake Lever. He had 13 marks in defence. It's probably a tip of the cap, but at the moment he's going big every second week. But I think it's got more to do with opponent. So, like, if you look at it, he put up a fieldable score against Freo. That's a pretty good one, especially given the key forwards he got. But then big score against Carlton, big score against Essendon, big score against Richmond, big score against West Coast. So
there's a pattern there.
That's all we probably need to read into about that one. Colton Tholstrup, again, we're talking about a lot of West Coast factor here with some of these Melbourne players. But with his 91 points, he took 11 kick-ins the other week, and he's taken a few more as he goes on. Only took 3 this week. But I think the big factor is that, like, he shifted to defence after being a tagging role for a bit. And like I was saying like the other week, there's no way he gets 11 kick-ins each week, and that's why he doesn't put up big scores. But he's proved me wrong this week that he did it with only 3 kick-ins. And scored the 91. But yeah, I just don't think I trust it against anyone that isn't West Coast, that's all.
That's fair.
Yeah.
He didn't need a massive night in terms of marks to get to that score, so that's also handy as a defender who isn't taking a lot of kick-ins.
And he used the ball up by foot a lot more. I think had 13 kicks.
Just looks like a well-rounded performance.
Yeah. But again, it's probably like to do with like once the Salem and Lindsay comes in, who knows what happens with his role as well. So I'm not buying into Colton Tholstrup just yet. I think it's actually Tolstrup. I keep hearing.
I think it is Tolstrup.
Yeah. Keep getting it pronounced differently. Again, we'll probably tip the cap to Blake Howes, West Coast, easy opponent for key defenders. So that probably makes sense that, why Lever went pretty well in this game as well. And then Paddy Cross, I just want to mention, like, I had no idea. I still don't really know who he is. But I just saw him line up on the wing a few times and then go forward and kick a few goals. I think he kicked 3 in this game.
Had a real hot patch.
Yeah. But I think, West Coast are a really easy opponent for wingers. I think they're easy for everyone, really. So he's just someone to keep an eye on because I've never really heard of him before. And
I remember when he first got named, and it wasn't even his debut because I think he played last year in a game. So when he first got named, it didn't say new, just said Paddy Cross in, and I go, who?
Exactly.
Just made up this guy. But he's had a couple of really nice patches. Like we've seen that, like Toby Murray, in a sense of, a forward who's come in as a fill-in due to injury and has a quarter where they just go nuts and it's enough to get them to a 70.
So he's just someone to keep an eye on, given that he scored a 70 and played a pretty good role for fantasy. I'm not sure what he's listed as in fantasy, if he's got the forward status or what, but might be just one to keep an eye on. And the only West Coast player I really want to mention is Josh Lindsay with the 84 points. Like, not a lot to talk about for the team, but he was the standout. 5 kick-ins to boost the score. I reckon he should be taking all the kick-ins if I'm running the team. But I think it's just going to be a gun.
I would say he's becoming very consistent. It was weird.
80 from his last 3. That's pretty good.
Weird they dropped him so early in the season because he's clearly finds a lot of the footy. What is this, like, very early in his career? So
going to be a gun. I think it's just going to take time, just like West Coast are going to take time. Chin up all the West Coast supporters out there. Let's get on to the Richmond versus Adelaide.
I'm going to say, can you save some goodwill for me? Because the Tigers are battling.
Well, I guess for a lot of this game, they look competitive at least. But let's talk about Luke Traynor. So on the halfback line, Sam Grill out of this game, picked up a few kicks. 10 marks was all that helps the stat line. Got a few kick-ins the other week, but now he's only got the one this week. What is your thoughts on Traynor? Can he become a handy scorer?
I really like Luke Traynor, and I was a little surprised in the early stages of the year that we weren't playing him as a first rounder who saw plenty of the footy last year. And he is, like, his game is intercept marking. I think he really fights for his position. He has really good central kicks as well. Like, he's quite clean at times when you need to. He's under a bit of pressure as a defender and needs to get it out of there. So I was a bit shocked that we hadn't played him as much as we have. I get the Grill was out and that's probably what's got him his spot. But I feel like this is a guy who, could long term be in Richmond's defensive 6.
Yeah, I think so as well. Like, this is the kind of role he's been groomed to be, but I think he could be a fantasy player as well, like, just given the way that they've kind of trusted him with a few roles and things like that. So one to keep an eye on. And Another one to keep an eye on, I guess, is James Trezise. I think he was starting on the wing, but then pushing deep into both ends of the ground. He even took a few kick-ins, I think, in the end. Scored 87 last week. I think he's just starting to mature a bit as a scorer.
He's a really big body as well, like similar in terms of what he does well with Luke Traynor, which is he's great in terms of his half-back marking, and you mentioned kind of floating up towards the wing as well because he's just got a little bit more versatility to him. But he's got a bit to offer, Trezise, and they've stuck fat with him for a little bit now. So
yeah, he just keeps popping up on the radar. So I want to think about. And on to the Crows. Not a lot to talk about here either, but Alex Neil-Bullen, another one who's just very close to too good for the podcast. I think he's averaging 81 from his last 3, but 78 from his last 5. So he's just on the borderline. Hasn't done the 80-plus in a row, but he's picked up in most leagues. And as I said to his mum when I met her a few weeks ago, he's just a very solid contributor in fantasy football. And she was delighted with that. She's like, that's a very good way to describe him.
I mean, he's just a really good dude as well. Like,
well, his mum's great.
Excellent leadership and... that role as being a senior leader.
Yeah,
I think it's especially with the absence of Jordan Dawson at times.
Yeah,
he's really stood up. So I don't know. This is kind of what we're talking about, a consistent 80 guy. That Alex Neil-Bullen's always going to be involved because he's just a heart and soul player.
Yeah, I think so as well. And it's been. I don't know, a good thing for Adelaide to just get a hold of him and have a player like him in their side, I think, and he's putting up the fantasy numbers to go with it.
But he's just not a small forward that drops off with terrible scores. He's just enough.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last one is Braden Cook after his big
I love the
showdown. Scored well in this game. Had the 83 points, kind of playing on a wing, and he's got forward status at the moment as well.
And his delivery is exceptional.
Yeah.
They like having the footy in his hands. Good run and gun. Funny old story with Braden Cook. First year Matthew Nicks 2020, we had a media day just to get to know the new coach kind of thing, and he was touting off about it, how excited he is to have this young group to work with. And Braden Cook was the one he kept talking about, and he said, "Oh look, he's not going to play this year. He's got a lot of work to do, but just how talented he is, he's going to be something." And it went 4 years, and I've gone, "Gee, this guy's still not made it. What are you talking about, Nixie?" But he always knew. He just had a feeling he was going to get to this point, and he's broken out.
He just looks like a player now. Confident. He looks like a player they trust. In the showdown, just cool, calm, collected, slotted that goal.
The only thing we haven't seen is a really high ceiling, I guess. His best is 80. We're probably waiting to see if he can get towards 100, maybe.
Yeah, but he's probably the last one to talk about in that game. Not a lot else to go on with. Let's get into the listener questions now. Last week on Discord, P-Rex wanted me, and for those who are on Discord will know P-Rex because he messages all the time. He's the one that keeps the Discord alive, really. But he wanted me to list a heap of buy low and sell high players.
Yep.
And I'm like, I read it on Monday. I was like, man, I can't go do that just an hour before the podcast. I need a week to do it. So I went through the week and kind of thought of a few players. But then from the weekend, a lot of these players, their stocks have probably dropped and you can't really sell them high anymore because they had shit scores. But I'll start with a few of the buy lows that I like. Sam Banks, I think just with how poorly he's been at the start off with, if people aren't paying attention, I think he's someone that you could...
Plus the injury, right?
Yeah, exactly, because he's been injured. I think he got sold in our league. Someone gave Took Miller up for Sam Banks in one of our leagues. So at the bottom of the ladder, gave up Took Miller and got Sam Banks back.
I think that's a win-win, isn't it? In a sense, you get a really good guy scoring now, but Banks is definitely a better long-term.
I think it was actually top v bottom as well. They both did the trade.
That would have gone well down in the rest of the league.
As long as one guy in our league doesn't win, we don't really care what goes on at the moment. I think Graham Myers, after his kind of last few weeks off as well, you can probably buy him a bit lower. People will probably be a bit worried about that. I think Jai Caldwell as well. People are going to start to get pretty worried about that injury. And I'm not saying that he will definitely bounce back, but you're probably going to be able to get him a lot lower than his value actually suggests. I did say Jagger Smith before the weekend just because he's playing forward, but that's probably more of a single season one. Harley Reid is someone I think people might be getting sick of that you could buy a bit lower. He's only getting 70s and stuff in fantasy.
I guess people are kind of waiting for him to break out, and he's still on the cusp of it.
Yeah.
He's had a couple of decent scores.
Another one I think I'm trying to go after in a league is Josh Dunkley. He's not putting out the big scores, but I think there will come a stage in this season where he always seems to do it at the back end of the season anyway.
He just got traded in our league for a future first.
Yeah.
But the problem with Josh is, and this happened on Friday night, he scored well because he tackled well.
Yeah.
He needs 8+ to really be a Centurion.
Yeah, I do agree. I reckon Bailey Humphrey you can still buy low. I reckon just give him a season or a trade or something like that. He'll go all right. Rowan Marshall, probably not as much now. He's starting to score okay, but if he's got forward status next year and playing somewhere else, it could be good. Xavier Lindsay, Hugh Boxall was not getting a game. I think he keeps putting up big numbers in the two, so I'd buy him low.
Throw a couple in.
Yeah.
Miles Bergman.
Yeah, I'd buy low.
Just consistently injured.
Yeah.
And his average is in the bin as a result. But the one game that he finally got to full fitness was that showdown and got close to a decent score.
Definitely be buying low
And
there.
Tom de Koning.
Yeah. Well, he's got some nice matchups coming up as well, so he could actually hit the streaks. But yeah, like I said, it's kind of the same deal as Rowan Marshall. If he goes, then Tom de Koning becomes a little bit more happy. You're happy to own him there. I was going to say sell high Massimo D'Ambrosio over the last 2 weeks, but he stunk it up on the weekend, so maybe he's gone back down again.
Too slow.
Same with like Darcy Burn-Jones as well. Like I was thinking maybe get rid of him because he's got the forward defender status and he was scoring okay before the weekend. Peter Wright I think is one to sell high on before Brian kind of takes his full toll. Carl Amon, I think he's just had some good matchups the last few weeks and he's getting on a bit, so he might be one to sell at the peak of his powers. I've got Tom Sparrow in there. I just don't trust him to hold this midfield role. But it's his new coach and everything like that. It's just disappointed me so much in the past.
Contract year as well, I think, and clubs are sniffing, so he's obviously fighting for that bank. But he's always been a mid forward that just gives you 70. And this year feels different, but you're right, the confidence isn't there.
I'd sell Will Powell. Just because they still haven't really been playing with their full complement of midfield, and every time they do,
this is the first weekend. So Rao's back. I think it's the second weekend that they'll have the three heavy hitters in.
And every
there.
time they've gone, the 2 times they've had him, it's the first time they had him, hasn't gone well. There's just a few others. I reckon like Jordan Sweet. I reckon sell high because I don't think he's got that long-term ceiling. Elliot Yeo as a forward, sell high before he retires. There's a few there because he's got the forward status as well. So Anyways, Robbie asks, who are the most consistent players in each scoring band? So he wants to know 90 to 100, 80 to 90, and 70 to 80. And of course, I don't use my own brain for this sort of stuff. I wrote a Python script that actually looked at who's the most consistent
Who cares about opinions?
In terms of standard deviation and the coefficient of variation. So,
I love this.
Mathematically, the most consistent players in that 90 to 100 range are Brad Hill, Clayton Oliver, Jack Crisp, and Jai Newcomb. They're always going around.
So there's
with
good
mates.
and bad in there where you say Hill and Crisp, that's awesome. And then probably bad for Oliver and Newcomb that they're just a little bit under par. Yeah,
but they're very consistent in that kind of band, though. That's the thing. From the 80 to 90, Adam Chera, George Hewitt, Willem Dersma actually has been very consistent, and Murphy Reed.
Again, I reckon 2 and 2 there, where the last couple you said, the young kids who probably break into the next tier next year, and the others like Chera and Hewitt are probably washed and they're done.
Yeah, exactly. And then from the 70 to 80 band, Sam Lawler, Jai Simpkin, Connor Nash, and Angus Sheldrick are the most consistent players that are consistently going in that band.
Connor Nash is an infuriating player.
Yeah, and Sheldrick just doesn't get the time on ground he could be.
And Jai, begged for midfield minutes and tried to get to the Pies and realised very quickly that no one rated him. So
exactly.
Unfortunately, he's stuck on a wing these days.
And the last question comes from Atrax1223. What's the go with Bruin? All of a sudden, played a whole game at half forward. What do you think? I got no idea.
I don't know either. When I saw what was going on, I'm like, it just totally threw me. Because this is he's played on ball and he's played half back, but we haven't really seen him half forward, which was weird.
Yeah, he's played every role, like half back, wing, inside, half forward.
No idea what happened there.
It's Chris Scott. I don't know, just doing random stuff. And maybe they're just trying with different things like to go around. Like the thing with Bruin, I just wouldn't trust it to last for more than 2 weeks because it would just change again. I think he's got his defender status now. People are happy.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's forward status for you guys.
Just having a look at the numbers, I guess, in terms of what might have changed. And it was probably the Oisin Mullen, Nick Dacos thing. I think that's, he jumped up to 87% CBAs.
Yeah.
So that's probably what pushed Bruin out.
Yeah, that makes sense. The last question is from Hugh Mann. Has Caleb Windsor turned a corner or still a void? He's definitely someone to have for long term.
Yes.
It's just if you're single season, they're going to be up and down. And I don't know. I feel like Melbourne won't have these kind of highs. I know they've beaten some good teams, but they're a young team. I think they will tire. And I still think there will be some inconsistency. Like, how they lost to Essendon. There'll be a few results like that.
Other flag as well, like Trent Rivers, I think, played in the twos.
He did, and he turned up.
Yeah. So, but maybe we've seen them experiment with him on the ball before.
Yeah. Yeah, and it kind of does work perfectly to kind of slot him on halfback when he's kind of playing or rotate those guys there as well, so it can factor things in. Anyways, that is the end of today's show. Thank you so much, Aaron, for coming in and joining us on the show. It's good to have you back.
Good to see you again, mate.
Your record player that you've donated to the studio is still going well. You don't really get to see it on the cameras, but thank you for that. Gets a lot of use in here.
I feel like every time I see you, I'm giving you a record these days.
Actually,
keep donating.
Well, you keep buying doubles or or
warped ones. I just give you
hand-me-downs.
hand-me-downs.
Give me them. That's all right. I need to add more to my collection. But no, thank you so much for coming on. Make sure you listen to you on ABC Grandstand SA. Is that the right way to say it? I can never
Technically,
remember.
no, but I'll forgive you.
Grandstand SA.
SA Grandstand is the show. ABC Sport is the brand.
But, that's right.
You know, we remodeled from Grandstand a few years ago, and I still think a lot of people are upset about it. So it confuses everybody.
Yeah, no, I'm a long time listener, and I do like to pop it on when I'm driving a soccer on Saturdays when my son lets me. So it's good to listen. Get around our stuff at Keeper League Pod on all the socials. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, you name it. We're probably on there. Get around our Discord. That's where most of the chat goes on, and we talk trade reviews and player ratings and all that sort of stuff on there. Plus the Gold members chat that exists there for those people who have signed up. And make sure you sign up as a member if you do want to support the show. Anything else you want to plug before we sign off, or get on the ABC Listen app and
have some fun. Enjoy your footy. Don't look at my team score moving forward, because I feel like this is the best we'll bet.
Finding him in the ranks and looking forward to having you in my top 100 numbers that I put out on Instagram next week.
I can't wait to go on this absolute tear, win the whole competition, and get disqualified, because legally I'm not allowed to win. So
can you win a hat, or are you not allowed to win a hat as well?
I like to think that my relationship with Warnie is strong enough that he can get me a hat.
At least he'll get you, maybe just get you a copy of the one that's not official, you know what I mean? Or you can just get it embroidered get you a hat and get it embroidered on the side or something like that.
Who needs a Hilux when you can get a hat?
Yeah, exactly. Let's take the hat. Anyways, thanks for listening once again, and we'll talk to you next week. See ya.